I didn't know how fast a normal morning could turn into a full-blown police situation until that day. 1 minute. I was standing at a gas pump, half asleep, watching the numbers climb as petrol flowed into my truck. The next minute, I was being told I was refusing to cooperate and that the police were on their way. And the craziest part? All of this started because a woman I barely knew demanded I pay for her gas. I noticed her before I heard her. That uncomfortable feeling you get when someone is standing too close, like they're intentionally invading your space. I turned my head slightly and saw her reflection in my side mirror. Perfect hair, sunglasses, tight mouth, that stiff, upright posture that screams authority even when there is none. "Excuse me," she said. Not friendly. Not rude. Just sharp. I turned around, petrol nozzle still in my hand. She didn't even look at me at first. Her eyes were locked on the pump like she was calculating something. "You're almost done, right?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. She nodded once like we'd just agreed on something important. "Good, just fill mine after." I actually smiled. Reflex. I thought maybe I misheard her. "I'm sorry," I said. She finally looked at me. Really looked. Then pointed toward a black SUV parked behind my truck. "My tank," she said. "You can top it off." There was a second where my brain just froze. I was trying to understand how a stranger could say something like that with a straight face. "I'm not paying for your petrol," I said. Calmly, her smile vanished instantly, like someone flipped a switch. "I'm the HOA president," she said. "People in this community are supposed to help each other." That's when it clicked. Her jacket, the logo, the tone. I lived in the same HOA neighborhood as her. I'd seen her before walking around with a clipboard, inspecting lawns, staring at driveways like she was hunting for violations. We'd crossed paths a few times, and every interaction felt like an interrogation. But this was new. "This isn't the community," I said. "This is a gas station." She tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing. "That attitude is exactly the problem with you." I went back to the pump. I wasn't going to argue. I just wanted to finish and leave. That's when she pulled out her phone. "I'll handle this properly," she said. Loud enough for the people around us to hear. Something tightened in my chest. She wasn't bluffing. I could hear her dialing. Hear the practiced calm in her voice as she started talking? "Yes. I'm at the gas station on Maple Road. A man is refusing to cooperate and is being aggressive." Aggressive. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't moved toward her. I hadn't done anything except say no. The guy at the next pump stopped fueling and just stared. A woman near the convenience store door froze with her keys in her hand. I finished pumping, put the nozzle back, and got into my truck. I didn't start it. I didn't leave. Something told me this wasn't over, and leaving would only make it worse. She stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching me like she expected me to panic, like she expected me to suddenly apologize and pull my wallet out. Instead, I sat there, calm, phone in my hand, recording I'd learned something living in that HOA. Document everything about 10 minutes later. I heard sirens. She straightened up instantly. Chin high, shoulders back. Like she'd just been proven right, the police car pulled in, lights flashing just enough to draw attention from everyone at the station. Before the officer could even shut his door, she was walking toward him, talking fast, pointing back at me. "That's him," she said. "He refused to cooperate. He was intimidating." The officer looked at me, then back at her. "Intimidating how?" he asked. She hesitated. "Just for a second." He refused to help. I stepped out of my truck slowly, hands visible, phone still recording. "Officer," I said. "She demanded I pay for her gas." I said no. That's the entire story. The officer stared at her. "Is that accurate?" he asked. She crossed her arms. "HOA residents are expected to support each other." The officer exhaled through his nose. "Ma'am, HOA rules don't apply at a private gas station." Her face tightened. "Then maybe he shouldn't live in our community if he won't cooperate." The officer's tone changed immediately. "Do you understand that calling 911 over this is misuse of emergency services?" she scoffed. I felt threatened. The officer looked at me. Did you threaten her? No, I said. He looked back at her. How exactly were you threatened? She opened her mouth, closed it. Nothing came out. The silence was loud. The people watching knew. The officer knew. And she knew she'd crossed a line. The officer stepped aside, writing something down. As he did, she leaned toward me and whispered, low and angry, "You just made a big mistake." That's when I realized this wasn't about Petrol at all. This was about control. And people like her don't let go of. I knew she wasn't done the moment she whispered that in my ear. People like her never walk away embarrassed. They wait. They plot. They look for another way to regain control. For 2 days, nothing happened. No emails, no letters, no surprise visits. Almost peaceful enough to make me think maybe she'd realized how badly she'd messed up. Then the envelope showed up in my mailbox. HOA letterhead. I didn't even have to open it to know who it was from. Inside was a fine. $250. The reason listed made my jaw tighten. Failure to demonstrate community cooperation. Incident reported. That was it. No explanation. No warning. Just punishment. I stood there in my kitchen holding that letter, rereading the words over and over, feeling that familiar mix of anger and disbelief. She hadn't just tried to force me to buy her petrol. She'd called the police. And now she was using the HOA as revenge. I sat down and opened my laptop. I pulled up every email she'd ever sent me. Every notice. Every warning. Every time she'd used language that sounded more like a threat than a rule. Then I pulled up the police incident number from the gas station. And finally, I wrote one calm, polite email to the HOA management company. No emotion. No insults. Just facts. I explained what happened at the gas station. I attached the police report. I attached the fine notice. I asked one simple question. How does an off-property incident at a private gas station justify an HOA fine? I hit send and waited. She replied before they did. Short email. Sharp tone. Payment is due within 7 days. Failure to comply will result in further action. That was the moment something shifted in me. I realized she wasn't going to stop unless someone stopped her. 2 days later, an emergency HOA meeting notice went out. Mandatory attendance. That alone told me she was nervous. Emergency meetings weren't called lightly. She wouldn't have done that unless she thought things were slipping out of her control. The meeting was held in the community clubhouse. I showed up early and sat near the back. People filtered in quietly, exchanging looks, whispering. You could feel that something was coming. She stood at the front, like always, clipboard in hand. Perfect posture. But I noticed the cracks immediately. Her smile was tight, forced. Her eyes kept darting around the room. She started talking about community values and respect and cooperation. Then she brought up the gas station incident. Without naming me, of course. She described it as a disturbing confrontation and emphasized how unsafe she'd felt. That's when I stood up. The room went silent. I could feel her glare before she even looked at me. I spoke calmly, slowly. I told the story exactly as it happened. No exaggeration. No anger, just facts. I explained how she demanded I pay for her petrol. How she called the police. How the officer told her HOA rules didn't apply. How she'll fine me anyway. Then I read the police report out loud. The words misuse of emergency services hung in the air like smoke. I finished by asking one question. How is this acceptable? For a moment, no one spoke. Then a woman in the second row raised her hand. She tried to charge me for using the community grill, she said. Said I owed her because she approved the reservation. Another man stood up. She threatened to tow my car from my driveway because she didn't like where it was parked. Another voice from the back. She called the cops on my son for skateboarding. Each story landed heavier than the last. Her face went pale. The management company representative cleared his throat. This is concerning, she snapped. I was enforcing the rules. He looked down at his notes. The rules don't allow personal fines for off-property disputes. The vote happened fast. too fast for her to stop. She lost her position that night. She didn't argue, didn't yell. She just grabbed her clipboard, stood up, and walked out without looking at anyone. A week later, I saw her again. Same gas station. She kept her eyes down, paid for her own petrol, said nothing. The fine was reversed. The HOA sent an apology letter, and I haven't heard from her since. Sometimes justice doesn't come with shouting or revenge. Sometimes it comes quietly when someone finally hears the word no and realizes they were never in control to begin with.